Oh my god, I'm at a truck stop and there is a kitten.
That's adorable.
Okay, just a second. I gotta
Go get it.
go say hi to this kitten and possibly rescue it.
Yeah, you don't get this anywhere else. This is live action right now. Not even sure if he's here
He
anymore.
ran away.
Yeah,
I don't have any food.
I
was trying to fly him with food. God damn it! This stray cat exploded the pet population, and that's what this cat is going to grow up to be.
Oh man,
It's frustrating.
this world.
Snore, dance all night, gonna make you sore. Who's that rapping at my door? Is that Lenore? Never more. You and me, baby, I'm a gator boy, through and through. My heart beats strong with that orange and blue.
Welcome, friends and neighbors, to our FloridaGators subreddit podcast. This is Topher Gator. I am joined, as per usual, by Hammer Suit. What's up, Hammer?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I am doing well. And Zlatan Diego. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going great. This is definitely the first time that we are saying this today.
Yes, this is not our second or third attempt at this. It's been smooth. We're doing well.
Seasoned professionals here.
Right on schedule as intended. Definitely not 40 minutes later than what we had talked about earlier today.
Yeah, it's probably my fault.
100% only Hammer's fault. Nobody else's.
Yeah, Hammer.
Everybody remember
I'm
that.
literally sitting in a rental car on the side of the road. I don't even know what state I'm in right now. And there's no lights, so I'm kind of sketched out. But I'm here to podcast. So
You and me both, brother. This is nice. This is nice to not be the only one. And normally I'm in a parking lot, but tonight I'm at like this little rest stop park and ride area right next to the interstate, and like there's like overgrown bushes right next to me. There's a real legitimate chance I might get shivved in the middle of this, so
I'm pretty sure I'm on a road. I'm not 100% sure though, because there's no street lights. There's no houses. I just kind of pulled over off this backwards road. I don't even know what state I'm in, legitimately. I have no idea. I'm driving through like the Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina area, and I think I'm in North Carolina. But we'll find out in about 3 hours when I get to my destination or not.
spreading the gospel of NFL football to the godless heathens of the Virginia Highlands.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We actually had our first major meeting here in West Virginia, and it was pretty cool. Like, we met a lot of really cool high school coaches, assistant coaches. Talked to them about like how to prepare their guys for the next level, which is college. And especially the guys who aren't going to go to like big D1 schools, like how to like set realistic expectations. Like, because I think a lot of these kids, they're told that they're the best player ever, and then they don't get any offers from big time schools because they're really not. And so it's like setting those expectations, like, stop waiting for offers you're not going to get, like take what you can, right? And then I'm also talking with these coaches too, like, because these are the guys that these kids probably talk to more than anyone else other than maybe their parents, even when they're in college. Like, I know a lot of guys who brought their high school head coaches with them to the draft room when they were getting drafted, and it helps prepare them for the NFL. Like, if this kid is talented enough to make it to the NFL, this is what you need to do to be able to support them. And if this kid is not talented enough to make the NFL, this is also what you need to do to support them. It's setting expectations, because ultimately, in the day, the NFL doesn't want kids to leave school early. Like Roger Goodell gets a lot of shit, but if he had it his way, kids would have to have college degrees to go in the NFL. That's kind of his mindset.
Interesting. So, speaking of potentially poor decision making by young college football players, how about Luke Ankrum lining up offsides 2 consecutive times to start the game?
That was beautiful. Well done.
Thank you.
Yes.
He's a senior, right?
I think so.
One would think.
So we don't have to worry about him after this year.
I think he's generally been pretty solid, but boy, that was backbreaking.
He's made some dumbass decisions though in like previous seasons too. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
isn't just like a one-time thing.
No, this season generally he's been okay. I feel like.
Yeah, like he's a solid player. Like he's a solid rotational defensive lineman. Like he's never gonna blow up the stat sheet, but he's like a guy that you could put in. You know that he'll make a very solid effort for a couple plays. That's all you need him to do. You know,
Need him for depth.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's the guy who posted his own picture of himself strangling a dude. Like, not actually strangling, but I think he had his
That's right.
hands around the guy's neck and gloating about it. And, it blew up a little bit because you don't post that dumb shit on social media. But, he went for it, and good for him. Yeah, we'll get to next year. He won't be here anymore. But, yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. It was that kind of set the tone for what was generally a pretty sloppy start to that game. Overall, I felt like, especially defensively, perhaps a bit lethargic. Definitely not really focused. It didn't seem like to me for that first quarter, at least.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think one of the biggest takeaways, or one of the biggest things going into this game, was just to get out of it with a win. So we did that. We accomplished the main goal here. We're coming off of our 5th game in a row, I think 3rd SEC game in a row. So we've been playing constantly. We referred to this earlier, but yeah, we've had a lot of injuries throughout that. Guys are tired. They're mentally tired. And honestly, you're playing against Muschamp in the rain, in the perfect conditions for Will Muschamp. So anytime you can come out of that with a win at an away stadium, and not just a win, but a double-digit win, I'm pretty happy with that, even if there are a few issues and a few mental issues that we had to clean up going into the Georgia week.
It wasn't like the prettiest game that we've played, but it was also like, honestly, it felt like one of those games where I felt really good about the team after it because there was a lot going against us into the game. Like, South Carolina's on an emotional high. Muschamp historically does really well against Dan Mullen. He has a hard-on for Florida because they fired him, so he's going to coach it up a little bit higher than normal. They actually have a decently talented team. They just got some holes. That's why they're not an elite squad. And it's in South Carolina, which if you've ever been to South Carolina, that shit's pretty crazy sometimes. Like when they are waving those towels around and you got sandstorm blaring. It was my first time I ever went there. I was actually genuinely surprised. I thought it wasn't like that at all.
Let's get into that for a second. I don't mean to interrupt, but
yeah,
did they throw garbage at you when you were there?
Well, I didn't go to this game, but
no, I'm just saying the last time you went to South Carolina, were they throwing garbage on the field or at you?
I don't think so. But we also barely won, so it was like that was a memory I don't want to remember.
They were inspired to throw trash for Trask.
Yeah.
There we go.
He feeds off of it, like in Back to the Future when they put the garbage in a DeLorean to top off the fuel tank or whatever.
So really, they were impressed and they were honoring him in a way.
It powered him to 4 touchdown passes.
I will say, throwing shit onto the field, regardless of not if the referees are making bad calls, it's just completely unacceptable, in my opinion. Like,
it's a real Miami move.
Yeah,
it's the kind of shit you do when every fan in your fan base is a garbage truck driver or a tow truck driver.
Very accurate.
This is how I propose. I throw garbage at you.
The most Miami move possible, actually. Yeah.
I choose you, Darlene. Take this wrapper from a Baby Ruth bar I ate last week.
Oh God, I'm just imagining now a guy getting out of a garbage truck with a gold chain around his neck, with the shirt buttoned down so you can see his chest hair. Just walks up, picks his girlfriend up, puts her in a trash can, and that's how he proposes in Miami.
That's how they do it, though. Yeah, I don't know if this is a shit on Miami episode or a shit on South Carolina, but I guess every episode is a shit on Miami.
It's shit on everybody. It's just shit on everyone right now.
We don't do enough of that, by the way. I feel like we don't talk enough trash about Miami. Maybe because we just don't think about them that much.
They haven't been relevant enough to trash on.
Yeah, and it's really mean to beat up on tow truck drivers or garbage truck. What are they? Just truck drivers?
Tow truck drivers.
Tow truck. Okay, yeah. Tow truck. Make sure I get the right. I would not want to offend the tow truck drivers who worked very hard to get to where they are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're a good tow truck driver or garbage truck, we're not making fun of you at all. We're just saying that
No.
there's
But you're
very
probably a Miami
specific
fan.
people in Miami that we're making fun of.
Right. We determined that the Venn diagram of tow truck drivers and Miami fans is nearly a perfect 1-to-1 overlap. We determined this over the off season when that tow truck driver in Gainesville, undoubtedly a Miami fan, swung a ratchet strap at LaMichael Pirine's head.
I believe this was within 99% accuracy too. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're very confident in these results.
We ran
we-
scientific studies.
We had Eric UF run the numbers for us, so it's pretty accurate.
Everyone's on top of it. We have the best in the business following up on these things. Yeah, I remember I have a really good buddy actually, and he always used to talk about his South Carolina trip and how welcoming their fans were. He went up there and they're all like, "Oh yeah, thanks for coming, spending your money here. We appreciate you visiting us and seeing our state. I hope you have a great time." And that was just his experience in going to a Florida South Carolina game in Columbia. And then you get to this past weekend where the entire fan base, obviously very frustrated with the game, proceeds to throw garbage at our players. Empty bottles, towels, trash, pretty much anything they can find. So it's a strange progression. I don't know. I can't say it's not directly related to Muschamp being the head coach. It's possible,
Could be.
but yeah, just an interesting side note right there.
So what else, beyond Luke Ankrum and our defensive deficiencies in the first quarter, what else were some takeaways from this game for you guys?
Donovan Steiner still sucks. That was a
Yeah.
takeaway.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he playing?
He still sucks.
He was on the field.
Oh, he's the guy that gets burnt. That gets burnt all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't really do anything except rotate in and get the good or the better, not good, the better players out.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I'm speaking to Donovan Steiner. They're saying they're going to continue that safety rotation. I saw that note today.
Which is the most asinine thing I've read in a while.
It's not.
What is the dumbest thing we're doing? We're not playing the recruiting game, or we're rotating Donovan Steiner in.
Rotating Donovan Steiner. I think that's even dumber somehow. I don't know. But you tell me.
I don't know. Donovan Steiner would be good if he was like a deep back and there's everyone else is still on the field. Like it's like Hail Marys. That's all he's good for. It's just stay back there for Hail Marys. Even then, I'd only trust him just to like jump up in the end zone and hope that he can swat the ball away. I don't even want to try to tackle anyone. I don't know. Like I think the safety rotation is stupid. I mean, their mentality on it is in that they're trying to keep guys fresh. But it's like no, like
Play your best players.
yeah, like play the best guys. Like you don't have to play your best guys 99% of the snaps, unless it's a quarterback. Like I think quarterbacks and a few offensive linemen are the only guys that should ever play more than 95% of the snaps, right? But fuck, it's a complete night and day difference in terms of overall defensive performance.
Yeah, and there's a huge gulf that we could find a sweet spot in between 50-50 rotation and, 90-10 rotation.
Like shit, I'd be okay with 70-30. Like if we were doing putting them in on, obvious passing downs, but he's not like covering a guy's one-on-one. Like it's like, I don't know why they have that mentality. It doesn't make sense to me. The only thing I can think of that would plausibly make sense is that players were promised X amount of play time. And that's what Dan Mullen's trying to do in his recruiting strategy. And so then if these guys show up and they're like, oh, we don't actually play, so Dan Mullen's not being accurate, that's the only thing I can think of.
He didn't recruit any of these guys. He didn't recruit any of these guys, though.
Because he didn't recruit any of them. But it's like, that's the only thing I can think of is that he promised playing time to people, and it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. So in addition to the defensive sloppiness, we also had Trask had some real difficulties grasping the football through the first half. I feel like there was one point in the second half. I didn't get the exact point, the exact time, but I feel like it was about 5 minutes into the second half where it just felt like things started to click. And I don't think from that point, after the Pierce run for a touchdown, I don't think we got into the end zone again until early to mid fourth quarter, but it still felt like things offensively were clicking and it was just a matter of time before we were going to break through.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Trask figured it out. Like I think he figured out the rain, and he's this really smart quarterback. I mean, if people are like, why didn't he start before? You can see why he didn't start before, because Franks would not have had an issue with the rain. Like his arm strength would still been just fine, right? Like that's probably why. If I had to guess, it's just that Franks provides more options in terms of like what routes wide receivers can run that he can hit, realistically. But Trask is a smart quarterback, and that's what you can tell is like he clearly studies and he clearly practices, and he listens to the coaching like completely. Like if Dan Mullen says jump 10 feet, he's gonna jump 10 feet. Like he's just very okay. If coach says do that, and you could tell like after they got back out of halftime that Dan Mullen made some adjustments for him when it comes to throwing motion. You could see if you go back and watch the game, he was throwing a very specific way, like holding the ball a very specific way, and then around halftime he was holding a completely different way, and it allowed him to give more push behind the ball, so he wasn't because there was one throw he made where it's like when you like have a piece of paper and you feel like it's gonna go a lot farther than it actually does when you throw it, like that's what it looked like to me. And I was like, holy fuck, that's about to get intercepted. Like it just was floating in the air.
There were I counted throughout the game, there were 4 of those passes that were like that.
Thinking of a few, yeah.
And I think the last one that was like that was the interception to start the second half.
Yeah. Which I think at that point I'd probably thought, oh well, he knows what he's doing. I guess he's just lobbing it up randomly and avoiding the players. But yeah, he finally got caught on that.
Yeah.
Sounds very Brett Favrean right there. So.
Yeah. Was that interception? I couldn't tell if that was just completely on him as a bad throw, or if that was a miscommunication on the route as well.
I think it was both. I think he had smarter options than that throw, but I also think that if the wide receiver was in the right position, I don't think it would have been a completed pass, but I don't know if it would have gotten intercepted either. So. It was a little bit on both.
If we were to give video game ratings to these quarterbacks, you'd have Franks. He'd have this. If we're giving out of 100, he'd have like 100 arm strength. He'd have this like just passing zip. His accuracy would be a little bit lower, but his size and strength would be just all the way off the charts. You'd have Trask there, maybe in the 60s for these categories, but then with awareness, he'd be up in the 90s. I mean, just way up high, maybe even 100, and just learning and everything, just the full mental awareness. And he throws it to the right spot every single time. And it's just absolutely, it's frustrating that Franks was starting for me, but at the same time, like you said, I could see why. But I'm getting to the point where I would rather see the guy like Trask in there, throw it to the right spot as long as you have that bare minimum arm. Yeah. And that's all you really need.
Especially in college, for me, give me the guy who is going to make the good decision 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I'm not going to defend... At this point, I'm not defending Frank starting at all, because, like, we look like a more complete team with Trask right now than we did with Franks. And I don't want to knock Franks because he's a talented quarterback. Like he still has a lot more potential. Like, if he goes to the NFL, I'm not expecting him to be a high pick, but I'm sure someone will pick him up, and he could be someone that could make some plays in like 5 years from now. Look at what Jacoby Brissett is doing for the Colts.
Yeah,
same type of player. Like, rocket for an arm, make some bonehead decisions. He ended up transferring to NC State, had a pretty solid senior season, got drafted by the Patriots, had arguably one of the best quarterback coaches in Josh McDaniels, grooming him for a couple years. Got traded to the Colts. The Colts lost Andrew Luck, and now this guy looks like the Colts are what, number 1 in the AFC South? So you can be a good quarterback 5 years from now, and I think that's what Franks is gonna be. I just don't think he's the guy we need right now to win, and that's why I really like what Trask is. What you're saying is like with awareness, he's just smart. He just makes the right decisions. He's willing to get 5 or 6 yards and then live on to play another down versus, oh shit, let me try to push this through 3 guys so we can make a highlight reel on ESPN because it's gonna be a 60-yard touchdown bomb. It's a big
Right.
difference in terms of mentality.
And back to my original point, which I got completely distracted and lost complete focus there, with Trask here. Anytime that he's throwing the ball and it's intercepted or almost intercepted, I'm at the point with his 100 awareness that I assume it's on the receiver and not him.
Yeah, there's been a couple of those for sure.
Yep. So it's I feel pretty comfortable with him back there. And I was once he did get a settle on the ball, and I realized that he could actually throw some passes. I felt very good about the game, and I think we had complete control at that point.
Yeah. I want to shout out to Jacob Copeland for having a standout performance. That was
he was a beast in that game, dominant.
Yeah. There was multiple times where he had people draped over him, and he still grabbed that ball, wrestled through those tackles, and made plays. And I was impressed by that.
Yeah, we really saw a flash of the future for him. What he's going to be capable of.
It's some nice moves to get open too. There's a clip of him where he beat Mukwamu, I think, on that first catch that he had, and he had this little kind of ballerina move that they had made fun of us for on Twitter, obviously. But I mean, he just had this little swim move and just walked right by him. I mean, this is a guy who was SEC Player of the Week last week for South Carolina, and Copeland just blew by him like he wasn't even there. And outstanding job by him.
Yeah, he did a great job. I mean, it's. We shit on Billy a lot, but I mean, that's obviously Billy's job is to make him do well, and
hey, Billy did something. There you go. Let's keep him.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying we keep him. I'm saying I'm not going to shit on him this week, but yeah, I mean, it was really impressive to see. He possesses the skill set that you need. Cause people are going to think this is weird, but I really don't think we have a number one on the team. Van Jefferson is probably the most reliable receiver we have, but Jefferson, Swain, Hammond, Grimes, all four of them, are in Cleveland. Even are all five of them are in my mind equal in terms of what they bring. They just bring different skill sets to the field, right?
For sure,
Copeland is an all around type guy. Now he's not there yet to be number one, so I'm not right now he's not the best wide receiver on the team. He's not. On paper though, he might be the most talented. And that's where it comes down to is he possesses the speed that Grimes and Cleveland have, but he also has the hands, and the route running that Van Jefferson has, with the intelligence of Josh Hammond, because Josh Hammond's probably just this dude just gets open. He's like Julian Edelman, maybe just find some soft coverage and get open. And so it's really nice to see him finally have a breakout game, because I know we've been wanting that forever. And it's good to see that the future at wide receiver will be good, because he clearly was able to make plays with multiple people covering him at once. So I don't think it's going to be an issue next year when he's probably the guy.
Yeah, I've got a comparison here, and I might have shared it with you guys before. I can't remember. To me, Van Jefferson is to wide receivers as Vernon Hargreaves is to cornerbacks, where he's a really physically talented guy, but not necessarily elite physical talent, but he's so much more developed than his peers when it comes to the technical aspects of the game and playing his position, because he's, his dad is a coach. And the same thing with Hargreaves, where he was so good as a college corner because at 18 years old, when he stepped on campus, he was as developed as most, 20, 21, 22-year-old corners.
Right.
Technically.
Yeah, no, he's, I agree. He's definitely just sound. He knows routes. He understands offenses. He knows how to block. He's an overall team player guy, but I agree. I mean, he's just definitely one of those guys that had a leg up. And that's probably why he's as good as he is, because, he doesn't have the physical skill set that, Trevon Grimes might have. You know what I mean? And that's why I think, listen, I think in terms of, if you ask me to name who's our top receiver right now, I would probably say Van Jefferson, just because he led us in catches last year. He's second in catches right now behind Pitts for wide receivers right now. And he's just reliable and solid. He's never flashy. He doesn't have those game breaking Freddie Swain catch two games ago, or a couple games. What was it? When did Freddie Swain like cut through all the defenders and burn everyone? Was that Auburn?
Auburn.
Yeah. Like if Van Jefferson doesn't do that, he doesn't catch through three guys and run it in for a touchdown like Copeland does, but he does, go up against Stingley against LSU and literally catch every fucking pass on that drive.
Right. Yeah.
So I think he's the top guy, but I liked seeing Copeland, like he's going to be the guy. And I feel like Copeland could be the most talented receiver we've had in a long time, as long as he can continue to develop himself mentally, because physically he's got what he's fast, he's strong. He needs to develop himself mentally, have more than just two routes he can run. And I think he'll be solid.
Yeah, fully agree with that. I'd say that Trent Whitmore is probably my top receiver on the team right now, but I'd have Van as a close second for me. Moving, I guess the one other piece that I have for this game that I wanted to actually bring up was the offensive line. Huge improvements from them. They're kind of improving week to week. And I don't think I've said this already. I know that if you listen to the beginning of the podcast, obviously we are perfect in all ways, but we may have had a few minutes of recording that got lost into the netherworld because we did not have the recording actually turned on. But anyways, the offensive line looked like it was actually stepping forward, and it's been doing that week after week after week. And that's kind of what I see as a huge sign of improvement for a team. And we did an interesting thing from the very first snap. We had Richard Garage in there starting, and we had pulled Blake, whatever his name is. We pulled him from right guard, moved Brett Heggie over to the right side, and put Garage in at the left guard. What did you think about that, Hammer?
I liked it a lot. I think Garage is just a very talented guy. Like it doesn't make sense to not have him on the field. It's like, yeah, he might be a better tackle, but Stone Forsythe and Delance can't play tackle. I mean, can't play inside. Like they're more like tackles. So it's like, put your best players in the best positions for them to succeed. It might not be ideal, but it's like it's that mentality of, I need to have a guard playing guard. Like, no, if Garage is talented enough to be the left guard, I feel like he should play in there because he stood out. He had a really great job. Heggie at right guard was awesome to see. So I think it was a really solid offensive line last week.
That's going to help our run game, I think. If we can get if we can get those guards playing, we have an experienced center. The tackles still have their limitations and issues, but they've been, I guess, serviceable, more so on the left side with Forsythe. But yeah, even Alabama or Georgia, and we're not at that level with that kind of talent. But even them, if they bring in an elite player, he might not get too many snaps as a true freshman. But by the time he's a redshirt freshman or a sophomore, he's playing a good bit. So we need to get Garage in there. He's our guy. He's obviously going to be our guy of the future, and he will be starting for the next 2 or 3 years, however long he stays. So let's get him in there and keep rotating guys in as we start to improve the offensive line.
I was getting concerned early in the season because you typically will see a second-year player like him who's really talented take that step forward early in their second year. And so I was getting concerned through the first couple games where he wasn't playing great when he was out on the field. But, I mean, yeah, he's taking leaps and bounds forward.
Especially with how many issues we had on the offensive line, you would have thought, hey, why don't we have this elite player in there? What's wrong with him that he cannot jump ahead of these? I mean, no offense, but these 5 shitty linemen. Some of them are good, but overall, there are pieces that were obviously not keeping up. Yeah. So I'm glad to get him in there. We got one of those pieces out of there, and maybe he just needs to get his head on. But yeah, it's a good thing to get him in there. I hope he sticks, and maybe by the end of the year, we might even see another freshman start to work his way into the rotation a little bit. I'm hoping. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much everything I had for South Carolina. They punched Jacob Copeland in the throat. I'm convinced that was a purposeful punch. The announcers downplayed it after they called it out. Then they're like, maybe it wasn't on purpose. The guy went for the throat chop, or right in the chin there.
McElroy is a Mackle bitch, in my opinion.
He is. McElroy, the Mackle bitch of McElwain's. Yes.
I'm pretty tired of that guy. At halftime, or just before halftime, What did you think of the decision to not try to push the ball downfield, and try to get some points before halftime?
I'd say 95% of the time that would piss me the hell off. And even this time I was a little iffy on it, but with our issues, with Trask's issues throughout the first half in holding onto the ball and protecting it, I mean, we weren't really turning it over a bunch, but it wasn't pretty, and it looked like we're kind of on the verge of him throwing a pick possibly or messing it up. I didn't think we needed to press our luck. Muschamp's just licking his chops, just trying to wait for some kind of thing where we force down the field. And in my mind, the one way, obviously Muschamp needed to have it in the ugly game, but the one way that South Carolina stays in that game or even pulls off the win is doing exactly what they did against Georgia and having a defensive touchdown. And I was scared as hell of that.
I agree with that aspect of it. I'm like 50-50 on this one. We were running the ball right down their throats on the first few plays of that possession. And so I would have liked to see us hurry up and get back to the line and keep, even if you don't throw it downfield, just see if you can keep running down their throats. Because I mean, like at the clip we were moving, we were 3 or 4 more plays from being in field goal range and being able to go into halftime with a lead. So I would have liked to see us at least hurry up to get back to the line to see if there was something that we could do something with.
It did seem like it was something that we had decided in advance, and then we didn't expect to actually run over them. And I'm sure they weren't actually expecting us to run the ball either. Maybe they would have adjusted. Maybe they would have called the timeout and after we threw it once or twice. But yeah, I could definitely see that viewpoint. And I mean, I thought so too. After a couple of runs, I was like, wow, we actually might be able to do this. And then, we just kind of let it run out after that. Again, did we cover the bad calls by the refs in this version, or have we not gotten onto that yet?
Nope.
All right, that means we have not. Yeah. So, and at the very beginning, we're in the away game, in an away environment. It's an ugly game. It's raining, and we had a couple of blatant missed calls against us. There was a holding on Diabate on third down, where South Carolina got it was, I think it's third and 14. South Carolina got the completion, got the first down, but it's just this blatant holding where he breaks through. The guy has his arm all like from behind him, has his arm around, like over his chest, and he's pulling him back, and he would have wrecked the quarterback on that play. They missed it. They got the first down. They ended up scoring a touchdown after that. It would have been a guaranteed field goal at best for them. We had a play not long after that where we were driving the ball, and Pitts would have been open, but he got held /face masked /beaten up /interfered with, whatever the hell you want to call it. He got absolutely massacred, and the ref staring right at him, and the ref held the flag in his pocket. Obviously, these are not game-changing decisions, but they're momentum changing at the very beginning. It could have been the kind of thing where if we stop South Carolina on that first drive and score twice, that gets the crowd out of it. That's huge. But again, it's not like a touchdown, and it was made up on the flip side almost twofold by the refs having some calls for South Carolina on actual touchdown plays. And my big thought is that it all evened out. I thought that even if they had called the calls on us, if they had called whatever penalties they were, I think a false start and then I don't know, a pick play or something like that. If they had called those penalties and taken back those touchdowns, I think we still would have scored or still scored a similar amount in the game. I don't really think they affected much. If I were a South Carolina fan, I'd be pissed, but trying to be as unbiased as I can, I just don't see how it would have really changed anything. I don't know if anybody agrees or disagrees with that.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, the call against us that, in my opinion, was the most egregious was the misspotted ball in the first half.
I'm remembering this, but I'm blanking on what specifically happened there too.
We stopped them clearly short of a first down.
That's right. The one ref lined up in front and the one behind, and then they went to the guy in the front.
And I mean, like, it wasn't even close on the replay. Like, I went back and watched it, and it's not even close. He's a full yard short.
So what we learned, when two refs disagree, we defer to the one that gives the home team the first down. That's what I thought at the time.
That's essentially what we've learned so far this year, because I feel like we've seen that several times this year. And are you driving, Hammer?
I am, yes. I'll tell you in a minute why. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and so anyway, it was frustrating. It was frustrating to me that we didn't challenge there. I feel like we should have, even if it's early and it's somewhat inconsequential. I feel like at least force them to think about whether they're going to go for it there. And I think if that was challenged, it would have been overturned. But yeah, anyway, that to me is the one that's getting old.
If I remember correctly, it was the Auburn game, and it was at our stadium too. I believe that we had a play, and I can't remember even who it was or anything, but it was a similar spot, maybe not a similar play, but a similar, very close spot where it took them all of about 0.3 seconds for the refs to be like, whoa, we're challenging this shit.
Yeah.
Not challenging, we're reviewing this shit.
I think that was LSU.
Where was the review? Was it LSU? It was.
I think so.
Either way, it was the instant review. Maybe it was both games, honestly, because I'm remembering Auburn for that one. So maybe it happened twice.
Yeah.
But instant review, and I've never seen instant review like that before on just some random spot, except against us. I've never seen it. It just doesn't happen. They don't instant review a random first down. So I thought maybe we'll get it, but no, we didn't, and that was that. Moving along, and every South Carolina fan can bitch about how they should have beaten UF, and there we are.
Yeah. Scoreboard, bitch.
Yep, that's the Muschamp game for you.
If you have to rely on not getting bad calls against you, then that's on you. That's on Will Muschamp.
If you had hit one of those 16 deep balls where you had the wide receiver wide open because we were just letting him run by,
yeah,
maybe you could have been in the game.
Indeed.
But they didn't, so... Right. That's my South Carolina thought. Every one of them.
All right. So let's move on to I think we're going to do like a Q&A session.
Yeah.
We solicited some questions from the subreddit, and Zlat, you gathered those. So I'm going to let you take a lead here and direct us as to what questions we're answering.
Yeah, and this is going to be the transition now. This is our bye week, and we will get well into Georgia discussion next week. We will have a lot. We have a lot on our plates, and possibly even a special guest. We're still working on that one, but
perhaps
it's going to be a good episode. It's possible. But in the meantime, this is pretty much all the questions I grabbed were recruiting related. A couple of them staff related, but usually with a recruiting element. If I didn't get to your question, either I didn't like it, or it is going to be something that will definitely be answered in the recruiting section. So I just thought, let's not answer it now because we're going to get into that.
There were a lot of recruiting questions. It did seem like.
Yeah, and a lot of repeat questions too. Probably 4 or 5 different Billy Gonzalez related, or even assistant coach related questions, but a lot of them geared towards Billy G. We'll get into that. I promise you. We will hit on Billy Gonzalez and his recruiting and everything else he does. So the first one is a multitude of questions. This is the highest rated one. We'll just get right into it by A. McCallum or A. McCallum, but either way. So I'll just ask one question at a time here. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Can you talk about how you get your info on recruiting? And I'm going to answer generically for all people who are insiders. It's really simple. Pretty much all of that is knowing a person on the staff, whether that's a coach, knowing a recruiting coordinator. There's a decent chunk that will talk to actual recruits or current players. They know they have kind of a different viewpoint, and they'll be able to kind of give you a different mindset. Again, you're dealing with 18-year-olds, so it's the information is, or sometimes 16 and 17-year-olds too. You can only trust it so much. But it's usually just people that know coaches, that know assistants, that know people just really close to the actual recruiting side of the program. And that's pretty much what all insiders are. You can find out a lot of information just by following it closely, ignoring what people are saying and watching what the recruits are doing. And then each year you kind of pick up on certain trends and you get those in your mind, and you can kind of, there's only so many different ways a recruit can go. You'll start to pick up on the guys that are, maybe this guy's interested in being a local kid and just kind of playing the game. Maybe this guy's interested in actually less interested in having the right fit coaching scheme and more interested in the superlative additional benefits. And you'll start, if the more you follow it, the more you pick up on it. So it's just a variety of all that all over the place. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. As far as the like sources in the program, that aspect of it is basically like in the movie Billy Madison, where the bad guy has paid the janitor at the school to gather information surreptitiously, and he comes and reports it. He's like, Miss Lippy's car is green.
I was really wondering where you're going with that one.
That's basically like where the inside the program sourcing. That's pretty much what it is.
That's a lot of that, yeah. And I mean, some of these guys who are on the recruiting websites, they actually do talk to the coaches. And the coaches, yeah, sometimes they're going to give info. Sometimes they're going to give misleading info. It's all over the place. You never know what's going to happen. The coach's only job is to try and land the player and try and not have the other guy land the player, at least in recruiting. And sometimes it involves misleading information. So you trust it as far as you can throw it. And and honestly, even if they're being honest with you, they still could be being misled by the players or the players' parents or the bag handlers or whoever. So it's all just a bunch of lies, and you just got to kind of start to pick up. Yeah,
it's a gigantic game of telephone.
This is literally Game of Thrones, but with actual high school recruits, and you just have to start to pick up on trends and figure out what's the bullshit, what do I throw out, what do I ignore, what do I pay attention to. So, yeah, the best thing you can pay attention to is honestly where's a player showing up. Nothing more proving than that. Is Hammer on right now, or maybe not? No, he's off. Okay, so we'll go to the next question. I have a couple of NFL-related ones here, so maybe we'll when he pops back, I'll get into that. Can you talk about or compare Mullen's recruiting strategy compared to other top 10 teams, such as time spent, types of players wanted? And I'll let you answer this, Tofri.
Okay. I believe his inclination is very much to go after guys who are more under the radar. It seems like there are a handful of those elite type of guys that we will prioritize every class. But I believe that this coaching staff is very set on their own evaluations and ignoring any other evaluations and very much ignoring recruiting rankings. And I think sometimes that's a good thing. And there are other times that it really frustrates the shit out of me. But yeah, I think that's more or less, that's the approach in a nutshell. And that's kind of rare at this level. I can't think of another like top program where it's like that. Right
you're
now.
gonna hate this response, but in regards to the overall team recruiting, god damn it, I'm not even gonna. Don't make me say it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. The bottom of classes. I'm talking about the actual like the lower level guys that they're taking. Debo did do this a lot. The difference is I will preface this is that he did pick out elite players that were highly ranked. That everybody thought was elite. He targeted those guys and he went hard on them. And I don't think Mullen does that. I think that he picks out different, we have so many positions we need. Let's say we need 2 linebackers. So he picks out the top 10 guys for each of those 2 linebacker spots. Maybe gives them different grades, or maybe, he just has different levels. Like, okay, here are the elite guys I'm willing to take. And he sets them up in tier systems. So let's say you have a guy who's a top 30 player, he's tier 1, and everybody thinks he's tier 1. Even Mullen thinks he's tier 1. But then you have a guy ranked 430th, and Mullen has him as tier 1. Well, in Mullen's mind, and he's like, well, I have these guys ranked pretty much equivalent. One guy's much more likely to go to me. I'm not going to get spurned at the very end. And honestly, it's a lot less I don't know if a lot less effort is the right way to look at it. I'm not sure if that's exactly how he goes, but he definitely is not going to go in on some of these bigger battles where you have a lot of bags going back and forth, a lot of decisions going back and forth, and I mean, basically every team in the country going after them. He'll pick and choose. He will have some where every team wants the guy, but he's much more willing to go down a level in the recruiting rankings to stay on the same level in his own rankings, and that's the best way I can describe it. The other thing he looks for, I've noticed this. He likes guys with high athleticism, and I'm not talking like ranked high athleticism. I'm talking guys who can play multiple positions, like a Trent Whitmore who can play anywhere on the field.
They place a high value on versatility.
Yeah, so you have guys like Kyle Pitts come in. They can play tight end, wide receiver. These linebacker safety hybrids. So Amari Burney, you have Trey Dean who can play kind of the nickel safety corner, although that's arguable. Chester Kimbrough's coming in as a nickel, but he can play kind of multiple spots. They love that. Offensive line, defensive line. Anybody they take can play pretty much any spot on these lines. I mean, some of them have specific targets, but yeah, they like the position versatility, and they like the athleticism. And then the final thing is that Mullen wants to see these players in person. It's rare that we'll offer a player just based off of tape and word of mouth. Usually they'll want to see the guy. They'll want to see what his size is, his body type, will he grow? They can kind of view that. How does he communicate with the staff? What kind of attitude does he have? Is he going to be a good learner? Things like that. Mullen does value that. He likes consistency in his staff. He likes consistency in the players.
Yeah. And that's actually, God, I hate that I'm going back to this, but that's actually for me where the Clemson comparison is
you
more.
Shithead. You just did it too.
That's where that comparison is a bit truer for me. Is there is a deliberate approach to our.
We are both such assholes right now for bringing that up. I swear we're going to get so many Clemson comments after this.
Should I just
cut that
out?
Yeah, just cut any mention of Clemson. Yeah, just destroy it.
Yeah.
A country boy head coach that played at Bama but coaches over in South Carolina. What's his name? All right, I think we can move on to another question. These are kind of longer answers, and I think we'll get some shorter answers soon. But I liked this one just because it gives a broad scope of what we're trying to do. So yeah, the next question. This is still A. McCallum, who had a lot of very good ones. Let's see. Hold on. I don't think Hammer's back yet, and I wanted to save this one for him, talking about Mullen's offensive system.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna pass on that, and unless you wanted to talk about that, and
no, yeah, we'll save that for him. I feel like you would have some good insight there.
So we will move on to the next questioner. Truthful Sarcasm asks, has our recruiting improved at all as a result of program momentum? It feels like us having a big home win against Auburn alongside every other program in Florida struggling, that should be boding well for us.
Yeah, it should definitely be boding well for us. I don't think that we have been able to capitalize on that as much as I would like to. That's actually kind of been one of my main frustrations with recruiting and with this coaching staff so far in general is we haven't done a very good job of capitalizing on what is a very unique point in the last 30 years of Florida football, or football within the state of Florida, where not one team being down at one time, but 2 out of the big three programs are just completely in the shitter at the same time. So yeah, we should be able to harness this into some momentum. And I think that this is where we're going to see if we're really capable of that over the next few weeks for me. If it's ever going to happen, it's going to be in the next few weeks.
Yep, I do agree with that aspect. I will say the question starts off talking about Auburn. If you're waiting on this point to start a top tier recruiting class, you're way too late.
Yeah.
So the Auburn game itself, while it might affect 1 or 2 guys, or we have to sell them obviously, but maybe it has a huge effect on 1 or 2 guys. The big place that should be taking place would be in the 2021 class. So that's going to be much more of a delayed effect for me. Florida State and Miami being absolute garbage. On the other hand, they've been garbage for the past 2 years now. There's not really an excuse there, and that garbage has continued. Now, Florida State has a few top-rated guys committed, and then a bunch of trash to fill out the rest of their class. Their class is not good at all, and it is on the verge of falling apart. I don't know what I expect people to flip from there. I don't know who in particular we are targeting heavily.
Right.
I know we are targeting Morvin Joseph. I know Grantham loves him.
Yeah.
And I think that we will see him visit in the near future. I believe he's visited recently, actually. And then there are probably a couple other guys that I would like, but I don't know if we're going to go for it or not. Miami's in a similar situation where they have one or two just really high-level guys, and then the rest is just trash. So their classes are suffering. We're not taking full advantage, though.
Right. Yeah. I do think we're probably at a point now where we could start flipping guys from them if we really pushed for it. It's just that they don't really have that many guys that we're interested in.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's only a couple of guys, and I know if you looked at their classes right now and saw the rankings, you'd be like, oh, well, we could take this guy, and you could probably find 6 or 7 guys. I'm fairly confident that there might be maybe 2 or 3 guys at most from each team that the coaches would even be willing to take, and they wouldn't take all of them. Like, we're really tight on spots right now. The coaches do like our class a lot. But, we don't have Florida locked down right now. I mean, we have Gervin Dexter, who's one of the best, if not the best in Florida. Derek Wingo, very similar, one of the best in Florida. Gervin probably might have been a Florida State guy if they were any good right now, and if we weren't. Derek Wingo could have easily been a Miami Hurricane right now in the same aspect. So, maybe us being better is helping there. Isaiah Walker, huge win for us that we just got, and that was the effect of us playing better.
Yeah.
But the other guys that we have, we just don't have that many other Floridians yet. So I haven't seen a ton. I'm expecting 2021 to blow up for us. We are setting that up in an insane way I have not seen before, which we'll get into. But again, I haven't seen Mullen do it yet. So while it's setting up right, let's see how it finishes. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm back, bitches.
What's up?
Yeah.
We're going through Q&A now.
I was parked on a private road.
Oh, what's wrong with you? You should know better.
And I guess the guy who lives on that road drove past the road because he saw me parked there, and so he called the police on me.
Oh dear. Yeah.
So.
Well, we're glad to have you here.
You should have kept us on, and recorded it.
Yeah. You would have heard me sucking off the cop. I'm just kidding.
Definitely don't do that.
Don't take drugs, children.
Absolutely. Do not pay off, bribe, or suck off cops.
Did they ticket you or anything like that? Or
no.
It
just took 1,000 years to fucking get out of there because
there
was no way I couldn't U-turn because it was it's a weird drop off. So we had to drive all the way into this guy's property and then turn around and pull all the way out while the cop was following me the whole time.
That sounds fun.
And I'm just sitting here relaxed in my bed or in my back bedroom bed watching the Lightning play and podcasting, missing out on all the fun that Hammer's having.
I saw a kitty while you were gone.
We're having a good time here. Having a blast. Hammer, we're asking questions right now. I'm gonna swing back to A. McCallum's final questions. Hammer, I'm gonna assume these are for you. Can you discuss Mullen's offensive system and what type of offense does he want to run / what type of players does he want to target?
Historically, he runs a pro style spread hybrid. But his offense is very different than what you would normally see, Kirby Smart in Georgia run a very run focused, old school pro style West Coast offense. We have a lot of players that fit it. It just comes down to Trask is not the kind of quarterback you would expect from a Dan Mullen offense. Dak Prescott is the perfect example. Tim Tebow, someone who can take the run, can do option plays. but he obviously fits the offense around Kyle Trask, which is nice. There's a little bit more short to intermediate throws, some play action. But yeah, I mean, like in terms of his offensive philosophy, like Dan Mullen wants, what would he like to run? He'd like to run probably a power heavy quarterback, option West Coast kind of offense. What he has right now is really more of a pro style with Trask, if that makes sense. Because Trask isn't going to be, he's not going to be running around, getting 100 yards a game and rushing, So, but obviously, like I think Dan Mullen's recruiting for those type of players. I mean, obviously, you look at Jalen Jones, Emory Jones, and Anthony Richardson are the type of quarterbacks that Dan Mullen likes, because not only can they beat you with their arm, but they're also fast enough where they could take over a game with their legs if you shut down the passing game. So, that's the future of Florida football. But right now, it's not the exact type of offense Dan Mullen wants to run.
Yep. And then the follow-up question to that: would you consider trying to bring back Charlie Strong if Grantham leaves? And how was Charlie in recruiting?
I'd bring him back. I mean, Charlie Strong is a solid, really good. He's actually more than solid. He's a great defensive coordinator. I think he should never have left Louisville, to be honest. I think he had everything he needed to do well there long term. And in terms of recruiting, I mean, he's got a lot of connections in Florida. He's beloved by. I don't think I know of anyone who doesn't like Charlie Strong, other than maybe Jeremy Foley.
Yeah,
Muschamp.
yeah, I was gonna say.
But so I think he would do well in terms of recruiting, but the coordinators aren't your primary recruiters. Like your coordinators, you want them to game plan and to put together the actual X's and O's of the team. Like that's what the assistants are for. But Charlie Strong can recruit. I feel like he'd probably attract more people than maybe Grantham would, just because of who he is and his connections with Florida. But he also wouldn't be a long-term hire. Like if he stuck around, I would expect him to stick around for maybe 2 years max, and because he's going to want to be a head coach again.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I know that from what I've heard, Charlie is very respected everywhere in Florida. People like him, so you have that going, you're going to be a pretty good recruiter. But yeah, like you said, it's not really up to the offensive and defensive coordinator to recruit as much as it is the assistant coaches or the other assistants. Their job is to, the coordinators are supposed to set the defense, so they're recruiting with their results a lot more and just the style that they run, rather than actually being a position coach that's talking to the players daily and trying to, get to know them a little bit better overall. I'm going to go on to the next question we have from Row Blue 56. I don't know if this is a Michigan fan or not, Row Blue, or Rob Lou maybe. But anyways, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU. Can we really compete for SEC chips and college football playoff spots, recruiting the 4-star rejects of the 5 schools named above?
Damn, that's pretty rough.
Harsh, right?
Can we compete for the playoffs? Yeah, I think we can compete for the playoffs, because Dan Mullen has proven in the past that he doesn't need elite guys to do well offensively. Can we win consistently and win playoff games or SEC championship games? No, that is my opinion of it. I feel like we can compete. I feel like we'll win if there's 10 tries, we'd probably win 3 out of the 10 with the way we're recruiting right now when it comes to the elite opponents like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. I mean, maybe not Georgia anymore, but like Alabama, Ohio State are probably the 2 main ones that I would be concerned with.
I don't know, with how Georgia's recruiting, they should be elite right now.
Yeah,
weird.
Georgia on paper is probably the most talented team in college football on paper, but coaching does take a lot when it comes into factoring in like who's going to actually win football games or not, And I'm not sure if Kirby Smart is a good enough coach to actually maximize the talent that he's recruiting.
Who was it that was saying that Kirby Smart was going to win a national championship at Georgia? I can't remember which of us was.
I said that.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that in the past for sure.
Fuck both y'all.
Wow, boy, that was. I feel like we got. That was like a Goodfellas where he thinks he's going to get made, and then he just opens the door and gets popped in the back. That's what happened to Hammer and I just now.
Just unloaded. Yeah, I've had that one geared up. I also have this geared up. Can we compete for these championships and college football spots or playoff spots, recruiting the 4-star rejects of the 5 schools named above? Guess we'll find out in 2 weeks, bitch. No, but seriously, in all honesty, I disagree with the premise of this question. We are not filling up with the numbers of high level 4 stars and 5 stars that these schools are, but we're not really taking many of their rejects either. They're filling up, obviously. So it's hard for me to call some of these guys rejects. Gervin Dexter, every single one of these teams wanted him. Derek Wingo, every single one of these teams wanted him. With the exception of Clemson with some of these, they're really weird at their offers. They only give out like one at a time for each spot, so they don't really count. But Isaiah Walker, every single one of these teams offered and wanted him. Jahari Rogers, Avery Helm, both of them, cornerbacks from Texas, both of them offers from Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and I think Ohio State. I'm not 100% on that. I could look it up. Jaquavion Fragers, LSU and Georgia, throughout the summer, were hard on him, trying to get him to commit immediately. Both of them. They wanted him badly. He ended up picking Florida. Now, he wasn't rated high at the time, and he's still not rated high. But they wanted him. And I mean, look at LSU's receiver class right now, and he would have had a spot and they would not have taken it away. These guys are elite guys. These guys are guys that all these big teams want. Now, our issue is that the back end of our classes, some of these guys, no, we're not competing with those schools. We're competing with lower level schools for guys like Trevez Johnson, Gerald Mincy, Richie Leonard. We were competing with like Virginia Techs of the world, and then some even bigger loser schools like Florida State and Miami. But I think that we are competing with the top. We just haven't moved into the upper tier where we can consistently win these battles like some of those other schools are winning. While the Georgias, Alabamas, and Clemsons are going to win 1 out of every 3 elite battles or whatever you want to call it, maybe we're winning 1 in 5 or 1 in 8. Maybe probably better than 1 in 8. So I think that's our biggest issue right there is just the amount we're winning them. And I'm hoping that as we continue to win, because that's all we can really hope for right now. It's not like our recruiting is going to magically get better. So as we continue to win, that starts to improve and we start to impress these kids more. The 2021 kids are very interested. So we'll see how that continues. But 2 weeks, we'll play Georgia and we'll see how that goes.
I disagree with the premise of the question as well, for the reasons you just outlined. But and I agree with Hammer's take that we will certainly be competitive enough where I could see us getting to the playoffs, or I could see us win an SEC championship. But it's going to have to be one of those things where like everything breaks our way, and we're healthy late in the season, and it's just going to have to be the right circumstances. And again, I don't see us competing for national championships until we start adding some of those elite players that we've had in the past when we've won national championships. We've always had Danny Warfel or Tim Tebow or Brandon Spikes, Percy Harvin, guys like that, the elite top end guys that I guess Gervin Dexter is probably one of those guys, but we aren't adding enough of those guys yet for me to be able to see us competing for a national championship.
And I do agree with that. If you take the classes that we've gotten for 2018 and 2019, especially post all the departures that we had, it's obviously not a championship level for me.
Right.
And even this current class is still not completely there. It could finish closer to it. It still needs to get a little better overall, even with the kind of the max class. But I think we are set up to do that. And we're at the point now where wins start to be the bigger factor in recruiting. if the players see us winning in year 2, 3, and 4 for Dan Mullen, they're going to start coming whether he's a shitty recruiter or not. And I'm not saying he is, but that's going to start taking care of itself. So
I mean, I think
that's the big thing there.
It'll take care of itself a little bit, but it's not going to be. We're not going to recruit at an elite level. I mean, considering like the reports of how we're not providing the same concessions that like UGA and Ohio State and all the other teams are. That's the way recruiting is now. Players don't care about if you win. They care about if you win and we'll buy them a house. Like that's kind of what they're looking at. And
yeah, I mean, are you talking, do we want the class that's going to get a composite score of 320? No, we're not going to ever get that with Mullen. 100% we will never get that. Can we get into the 290s? Because we've been in the 260s and 70s. Yeah, we can do that.
I think we can realistically be in like in the top 7. I feel like being in the top 7 should be the goal. Because then like if you're like plus or minus 1, it's not like make or break it, you know? Like but if we're like barely scraping into the top 10 and then maybe doing top 15, like no, like it's not sustainable for long-term championship success. It's sustainable for long-term success, you know, like 10, 11 games wins a season, you know, but that's like Mark Richt level. And if people want Dan Mullen to be Mark Richt, then that's great. That's who it'll be. But I think for us to go over the hump and win SEC championship games and go into the playoffs and actually maybe even make the championship game, Dan's going to have to start bringing in my opinion, top 7 classes for us to be able to do that.
So hopefully we can do that this year. It will take a lot to break into the top 7. It would take a lot of things to go our way. Now, to get outside of the top 10, it would also take a lot to go wrong. So we're kind of locked into that, but we can get into that when we start getting into the discussion. I think it's time for another question from Albareo. I don't know how y'all say these names, but I'm going with what it looks like. Could you give a general overview of the most Gator-friendly high schools in Florida historically? This one's tough. Lakeland's an obvious one. Vanguard and Ocala is nearby, and we've had some success there. Even St. Thomas Aquinas, when Urban Meyer was here, we had a lot of success, and we're working our way back into that right now. The thing is that these high schools change coaches, they change administration, we change coaches, we change admins. I mean, the connections are made through relationships. So when the relationship goes, you don't always have that connection. So while there's going to be a school like Lakeland that might always be a Gator school, and then LSU has their one in Baton Rouge. I mean, there are certain high schools that are like that. There aren't a ton that are just always Gator friendly. So I think the bigger thing is just recruiting in certain areas. Tampa, Lakeland, Orlando, Jacksonville are Gator friendly areas because they're nearby. And I think McElwain did a big number on the high schools in Florida. He burned some bridges because he's a fucking weirdo. And he probably did some other stuff where he pissed off some people because he just sucked at literally everything he did. So Mullen actually spent the first year trying to mend some of these bridges. And I think he started to do that with a couple of big name schools. So that's good. But yeah, I don't know if I'd have many more schools that are Gator friendly, some that are anti-Gator. But yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything to add? That's a pretty...
No, yeah, you summed it up.
Okay. And then let's see. We have, hold on, making sure I have enough. Okay. So I have 3 more and then my own personal question, which I'm sneaking in because this is our podcast and I'll do what I want. But we'll go with M&M0602. Which current commit will have the biggest impact on the field next year? And then he notes factoring in realistic chance of actually stepping foot on campus because that obviously needs to be pointed out nowadays. And then he also asked about the long term, who's going to have the biggest impact. But yeah, biggest impact next year, biggest impact next 3 to 5 years. Who wants to take this?
Ooh, I'll do biggest. So we're talking about recruits from the 2020 class, right?
2020 class coming in. Who's going to be the biggest true freshman?
So true freshman. I think the biggest impact true freshman next year, in my mind, is going to be Derek Wingo. I remember I talked to you about this the other day, Zlat, on I think it was like Sunday maybe. I was watching some tape on our defensive recruits, and I was loving on Gervon Dexter, and I was like, wow, this guy's gonna be great. And then I watched some tape on Derek Wingo and said, well, this guy's now my new favorite player. Like, he's already complete. He's already ready to go, I think. And the fact that we're gonna be losing Grenard and Zuniga, and no one has really shown me that they can kind of take over that role next year. I wouldn't be surprised if Wingo, makes an immediate impact. I mean, he's got the skill set necessary to compete at a high level of the SEC. He's a borderline 5-star prospect. I mean, he's a solid guy. I think he's gonna make an impact in terms of the next 5 years. Is that what the thing was? The next 5 years or whatever?
Yeah, next 3 to 5 years, just a long-term impact.
Anthony Richardson, probably.
Yeah,
that's the hope.
Yeah, those were the two I was going to key on. I could also see Gervon Dexter making an impact immediately. He has the physical talent. I think he's not refined as a defensive tackle yet, but that's a position where we're going to need some warm blood next year. And so I think he will at least play. And we'll see how much of a learning experience it is for him. But yeah, other than the two that Hammer mentioned, yeah, I would add Gervon. And I'm gonna dig deep and say that one of the lower end of the recruits, who will have a long-term impact. I'm gonna say Richie Leonard. I think he's gonna start, not immediately, but I think that he'll be one of those guys who starts on our offensive line for 2-3 years, and part of that is that he's someone who was being sought by other big time programs. Part of it is that I'm just partial to guys from Cup. We've had good luck with them lately, and so I'm gonna say that that's gonna keep going with Richie Leonard.
Y'all took the easy ones, and Derek Wingo and Gervon Dexter. I have 2 more written down because I figured those 2 would be snatched up. I'm going to base this off of the highest likelihood for them to rotate in, because we all know that Mullen likes experienced guys playing. So while some of these guys may get snaps and may not redshirt, a lot of them are just not going to see that much of the field. But 2 positions where we could see somebody step in right away. One's offensive line, particularly offensive tackle. I don't think anybody's going to supplant the offensive tackles, by the way. But this is just, I guess, a somewhat more likely position. Isaiah Walker is a guy who could possibly do that. I don't think he's nearly as ready, though, as one of our other targets in Marcus Dumerville. I don't feel very confident in us landing him right now. And by not confident, I mean I'm just not at like the 70-80% level of landing him. I think if we had him, I would name him as my number one guy who I think this guy could actually work his way into the lineup and play. But the other one that I'm going to go with, and that's actually my main answer for this, is Jaquavion Fraziers. We're losing a lot of receivers. We're going to be playing some true freshmen next year. I don't know if there's really much of a way around that. We have Copeland. We have the 3 that we added this past year in Whitmore, Marks, and Weston. We may have Tony or Grimes come back. We may not. We may have Rick Wells stay another year. We may not. That's it. There's just not – the numbers are low there. Fraziers is the only receiver we have committed who looks like he's going to step on campus 100%. We cannot count on Manuel right now, Leonard Manuel. He has to do some work to get in, not just to get in, but just to get onto campus and to stay enrolled on campus. I know he had to transfer high schools, so that's a guy you just cannot count on making it into the class. I hope he does. Maybe he will. I'm not saying he won't, but yeah, Fraziers from all reports, it seems like he's going to be able to step on campus, and a lot of staffs loved him. Our staff loves him. I think we're going to see him play a lot. And then the other guy who I'm hoping to land would be Xavier Henderson. And if we do get him, I think he plays a lot. So receiver is going to be the big position for me where we'll see true freshmen play. And then, yeah, long-term impact. Obviously, all the guys named, you're hoping that have that huge long-term impact. Anthony Richardson was my answer for the guy that I really thought would have the biggest long-term impact. But since we said him already, I'm going to say Isaiah Walker again. I think he is a future NFL star, or not NFL star, but a future guy who's going to be drafted high. So future college star and will be in the NFL playing. I think the coaches love him and they love his upside more than anybody else on the offensive line in the state of Florida. So while Doomerville might be more ready right now, I think the staff likes Walker more for the long term. So,
yeah.
Yep. Moving on to the second to last question. The last one is a longer one, but this one's well, we kind of got into it a little bit. Soggy Logger asks, generally, can a program's recruiting issues be solved by hiring the right assistant coach, or does it largely depend on the recruiting abilities of the head coach?
Yeah, so I think you kind of split the difference there between, I think the head coach's recruiting ability is going to either elevate or, hinder what the assistant coaches are capable of. But I think we saw an example of, to an extent, how recruiting can turn around pretty quickly based on assistant coaching hires under McElwain when he brought in Sider and Brad Davis and Corey Bell. In his last season. And recruiting, it's debatable how many of those guys would have stuck in that recruiting class, but I mean, there was a lot more energy around the recruiting situation just based on bringing in those three guys. So I think that, you can do a lot by changing up the coaching staff, but ultimately there is going to be a ceiling based on the head coach's abilities.
Yep. This is my favorite question that was asked because it's a chicken and egg argument and people have it all the time. And they're always so positive and extreme in their viewpoints on this. And it always, it just makes me laugh because you can't be extreme in this. There is not an extreme because there are just so many variables.
Yeah.
You're going to be limited in how much does the coach prioritize recruiting? Does he put together this elite recruiting staff? Does he have a ton of recruiting staffers? How much does he want them working on it? How much does he want them texting? It's a top-down philosophy. So if the coach doesn't highly value it, the staff might not highly value it, or the staff won't highly value it. It's just the way it is, whether the coach is a good recruiter or not. Is Saban the best salesman on the planet? Or is he a hard worker that hires really good assistant coaches and that just showed his really good on-the-field product? It's really hard to say what comes into this first. I don't think Saban is the best salesman on the planet. Now, maybe he's a great one, but I think there are better guys out there at just straight up selling / straight up recruiting ability. But he knows how to put together, be the CEO and put together just a program that can do it. And he values it. He prioritizes it in a way that certain coaches, like a Dan Mullen, don't. So that's what I don't necessarily think that it's Mullen's recruiting ability that is limiting him so much as it is the priorities we have. And just to answer the assistant coach thing, yes, the right assistants can help you with a number of players. So if you hire a huge elite assistant staff full of elite recruiters, it's going to help you. But like Tofri said, you're limited to a certain ceiling if the coach only prioritizes it so much.
It also comes down to strategy around recruiting. I mentioned this before, maybe 15 minutes ago, that if we're not playing the game at the same level these other elite guys are, then it doesn't matter how good your coaches are, they're not going to recruit at that same level. Look at Charlton Warren. He was on our team last year. He did okay in recruiting. He got in some top talent, like Kyrie Elam, and he helped recruit him at least, right? You go look at his profile now on 24/7, and he's got 2 5-stars he's helping recruit for Georgia and multiple top blue chip guys, because Kirby Smart has a completely different mentality around recruiting than Dan Mullen does. Urban was the same way. Urban was kind of like Smart in terms of recruiting is the most important part of building a football team, because if we have the talented guys, we'll be able to perform at a high level when our schemes are not working. And but Urban was never elite himself. himself at recruiting. He was good at it, and he could go in and talk to people and convince them that their son should play for him because he's going to take care of them. But he built a staff around his mentality of we have to dominate at all facets of this.
Hammer, hold on. This is hilarious. I cannot stop laughing at this. Hammer, your microphone is randomly slowing down. Like it's the funniest thing ever. Like you're going really fast, and then all of a sudden, Urban is dominate. It's crazy. I'm dying over here.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny.
But
like you guys know what I mean. Like it comes down to strategy, and it comes down to being able to be the CEO, like you said. Like recruiting has to be important, and it has to be the number one focus if you want to have a top class. That's just all it is.
Yep. So it depends on how high of a ceiling do you want when you're asking this question, because it is all over the place. There are a ton of variables. At the end of the day, though, if you don't have both the coach and the network in place to make it happen, it's not going to happen. So, I mean, network means a lot of things, but location and money are both directly involved with that, and in a variety of ways. So that's pretty much the gist. I think we've all made it clear, had a good answer there. This is a question from the entire subreddit, because we had probably 60 different variations on this. Who is good on staff? And that might even be my own paraphrasing right there. So I figured, why don't we each give, I was going to say a top 3 and bottom 3, but let's each give your top 2, bottom 2 coaches for recruiting and just everything involved, recruiting and coaching, everything like that. Top 2, bottom 2, and just give your little 10-second spiel on that.
Okay, let's see. Top 2. Boy, top 2 is difficult.
I wanted to make it a little tougher. We can each try and give different answers. Maybe not.
Okay. Okay, so for top 2, I'm gonna go Brian Johnson, the quarterback's coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll go Christian Robinson.
Okay.
Man, I don't know though. Like it's okay. So I'm between Christian Robinson, Torian Gray, and Hevesy.
Okay.
For 3 very different reasons there, as far as who the
absolutely this is tough. Who's good? Who's the best?
Okay. So like with Hevesy, I mean, in my opinion, he is an elite offensive line coach, like one of the best in the country. And we're seeing that yet again this year with how much we're developing throughout the season. But like his recruiting is like he just doesn't give a fuck. Like
is it doo-doo, would you say?
He just he doesn't give a fuck what you think of him, and that applies to recruits as much as it does to anyone else. With Torian Gray, I think he's kind of I would, you know what? I'll go Torian Gray with my number 2 spot.
Damn, I was hoping to be unique there. All right, that's good.
Because he's
answer.
kind of got a combination of the recruiting and the coaching ability. He's an elite coach, and he's a pretty good recruiter. I haven't yet seen enough from our linebackers to say whether Christian Robinson is a really, really good or above average coach at that position. I think he's probably a good coach there, but this past game has me a little bit spooked as far as our linebacker play.
He's definitely a good recruiter. There's no question. Possibly the best on the team.
Elite recruiter. And then Brian Johnson is, again, kind of a combination of both. Good coach, good recruiter. So those are my top 2.
All right, we'll go top 2 at a time. I don't know if Hammer's on right now, but I'll give my top 2 so he doesn't take mine. You son of a bitch. Okay, I do love Brian Johnson. I think he is fantastic, but I'll go with a different answer. Larry Scott and Torian Gray.
Fuck you.
Are my top 2. And I would have Brian Johnson probably.
I'm fucking mad you took Larry Scott.
Larry Scott and Torian Gray, and Brian Johnson would probably be a close 3rd, but still I have those 2 at the top. Torian Gray, for all the reasons mentioned above, I think he's a very good recruiter. He's landed 2 who I think are elite cornerbacks, and he's on. We are in on some others, and I think he is going to crush it there. He got us Kyer Elam too, and the corners have played well. I like what they're doing, and then Larry Scott, I think, is the most underrated recruiter on the staff, and that's partially because he's just kind of. I mean, he's in on a lot of guys, and he's not necessarily listed as the primary guy. He's the tight end coach, but the tight end coach is generally a guy who's going around recruiting. So, yeah, he's landed Keon Zipperer and Kyle Pitts, two absolute studs in the rankings. Kyle Pitts is possibly the best player on the team right now on offense. Definitely had the biggest jump there. So, yeah, he's doing a great job of coaching these tight ends. He's landing these guys. They put him on the Lakeland territory, which shows how much they value his recruiting skills. Because Lakeland is a place we have to lock down, and there's a lot of elite talent there. So he's been working on these guys at Lakeland High School. Gervon Dexter. There's a few other players in the area. I think Morven Joseph's over in that area too. And then Orlando, I think he's also in that spot as well. But yeah, he's in on pretty much all of our biggest targets, doing a great job recruiting and killing it coaching wise too. So those are my two.
Yeah, that's a solid point. Yeah, I hadn't really considered Larry Scott, but yeah, you're right.
Under the radar kind of recruiting. Hammer?
Yeah, I was pretty pissed you took Larry Scott. Like,
well, you can have my sloppy seconds. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Larry Scott and David Turner. David Turner has impressed me with the way our defensive line has played. I was not excited about his hire, and I feel like our defensive line is significantly better this year than it was last year. Grenard and Zuniga are both playing well. Our defensive tackles are playing good. Like they're not playing up to their talent level, but they're doing a good job. But his recruiting is impressive. You got Gervon Dexter, you got Goods, Johnny Brown. He's in the running for Tim Smith. Like he's definitely bringing in some blue chip elite talent at defensive tackle. And South Sincere could give a fuck last year, so I'm definitely impressed with his hire. And Larry Scott as well is definitely involved a lot in the offense. You can see him on the sidelines helping all the different position groups, making sure they got their assignments. He's doing a lot more than I think people realize he does. He's recruiting at a high level. Kyle Pitts is probably the best player on the offense, like you said. His leap from last year to this year is really impressive. So, I mean, those are my top two guys.
Just one note on David Turner. He might even be the guy for me next year. It's a little unfair with how great of a position he's in for recruiting. We have a top defense typically. We have a great defensive coordinator. We're setting up very nicely, and we haven't landed any defensive linemen in 2 years, outside of maybe one or two. So there is playing time abound, just a plenty playing time, and he has the easiest recruiting job on the planet right now. Now he's still doing his job, and so I don't want to try and take away from that, but I want to see it continued. And I mean, he's setting up 2021's even better right now. Like our commits are top level guys, and the guys we're in on, these guys are like these guys are top 100, top like 5-star players. These are on a same or even better level than the guys we're in on for 2020. So I mean, he's setting up perfectly. I need to see it finish too. I need to see him get some of these 2021 kids to finally flip, because we're about to flip a few, and to actually hold them and keep them, and let's see what happens there. But yeah, I cannot fault you for having him top guy right there. He's very good so far. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
Bottom two. This one probably we're gonna have a lot of similar answers. Okay, I will point out, I will not have Greg Knox on this list. I actually like Greg Knox.
Greg Knox he's also our special teams guy, and so far our special teams have been pretty awesome in his 2 years here. So I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I
completely agree.
So if I had to pick a bottom two, I would pick Ron English and Ron English. Can I get rid of him twice? I really want to fire him twice. Damn. Yeah, I guess if I had to pick somebody, it would be Billy Gonzalez. But I'm still, as much as I've been hating on him, I have a hard time. We have a coach who has been with his dudes, Billy Gonzalez, Greg Knox, John Hevesy for over 10 years right now. The offense is dominated. I mean, our explosive plays are crazy right now. I think I saw we're tied for first or something in explosive run plays over 70 yards in the country, and we've had we're one of 7 teams who've had I think 4 or more 60-yard plus pass plays, something along those lines. I might be flipping those around, but either way, we are explosive on offense. When's the last time that we were explosive? Hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, so this works for Mullen. So I'm a little bit nervous about taking away a big piece of that because we don't know how it goes with them. We don't know how they all meld together in their preparation, in their development, in their film study, and in their game planning. We just don't know. So I'm positive that Hevesy plays a huge role. I'm pretty sure Greg Knox does too. I think those two are kind of the run game coordinators. Maybe Billy Gonzalez plays a huge role in that too. I mean, you don't break off these big runs without teaching guys to block. So I'm still going to have to pick him because I don't think there's anybody else I'd put unless I'm missing somebody.
No.
Have we named anybody? Yeah, so I guess him, but I'm going to pick Ron English twice. So that's my answer.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, that's I couldn't have said it better. Ron English just is. I don't know. I just don't even know what we're doing with him.
I know what we're doing. We're playing our worst players.
Yeah, what is this? What the fuck is this? It's so bad in every aspect with him. And then yeah, like you said with Gonzalez, I've not been very impressed with him. But for whatever reason, Dan trusts him, and it's tough to know within game week, how much of the game planning or how much of the unseen development of players is attributable to him. It's really tough to know. But yeah, I would probably go with Gonzalez as my second, because with Greg Knox, our special teams has been so good. And yeah, our running backs have all been turned into complete backs to some extent. So yeah, it's tough to nitpick him just based on the recruiting aspect.
Yep. Hammer?
I'm pretty much going to say the same stuff you guys are saying. I mean, Ron English is probably easily the worst coach on the staff when it comes to recruiting, player development, and coaching. Easy. If he's not replaced this offseason, I'm going to be genuinely surprised. Yeah, Billy Gonzalez could improve his recruiting. I'm going to give you guys something. So, because I don't want us to say all the same thing. So I'm going to give you something that's been in the back of my mind. And you guys are going to be a little surprised by it, but let me argue it, okay? So, yeah, Billy Gonzalez's recruiting sucks. His coaching might be okay. I don't know. Like you said, we don't know how he works well with that. A coach who I am really impressed by his recruiting, but significantly disappointed by his coaching thus far this season is Torian Gray. I'm going to tell you why. Marco Wilson and C.J. Henderson and Kyrie Elam are all 3 tall, physical corners who are solid in man coverage, and he's coaching them to play soft. He's coaching them to play off the ball. They're not pushing at the line of scrimmage. And maybe it's a Todd Grantham thing. I don't know. But I know last year they didn't play like that. So it's just something they're not tackling right. And Torian Gray is notorious for developing guys that are pure zone corners. The Fullers were zone corners. He doesn't teach proper tackling techniques. He's big into, playing off the ball, conservative style, and I'm slightly disappointed in that because C.J. Henderson and Marco Wilson are talented enough where they can push the line of scrimmage and play physical man coverage without being liabilities. And so that would be, I don't feel like he should be replaced for it, but I don't want to just throw Billy Gonzalez and Torian Gray under the bus, and say they're the worst coaches. I think our secondary as a whole might need an overhaul in terms of just the way we schematically plan. I think Torian Gray needs to be a little bit more in terms of teaching tackling techniques and being more, aggressive. And I feel like Ron English needs to be replaced completely. And that's why I'm not a fan of Torian taking over the whole secondary, because I don't want a whole secondary of people who don't know how to fucking tackle.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Yeah.
I've been a little disappointed with the corners too, and I've actually chalked it up to Grantham and just how we've been playing things with our issues with the pass rush and our defensive line problems. But you might be right. Maybe it is just how Torian's coaching them right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know one way or the other.
For me, the problems with tackling, it hasn't just been the guys in the secondary. Like, it's been the linebackers at times this year as well. It just seems like our approach in practice may be a little too soft. And some of that may be dictated by a lack of depth and a fear of injury. But I think, for me, the defensive back deficiencies this year, a lot of it has been attributable to Grantham, has been attributable to scheme, just based on what I've seen. And like a counterpoint to the coaching at corner, I've been really impressed with how prepared Kyrie Elam and even Jaden Hill and Chester Kimbrough have been when they've been put into the game for freshmen. They look prepared. They look like, they're ready to play. They know what they're doing out there. I would like to give it another year and like you said, an overhaul of our approach on the defensive backfield.
Don't get me wrong.
I'd love to see that.
Don't get me wrong. Torian Gray is a fantastic coach. He's a great recruiter. I don't want him to go anywhere. He's not even on my bottom two. He's nowhere near my bottom two. I just didn't want it to be a Billy Gonzalez, Ron English, let's only shit on those guys. Because he is doing some things that I'm like, God, come on. Like we have the talent to not have to do that. And it could be Grantham's call. I don't know. But if you follow Torian throughout his college career, when he was at Virginia Tech, and then his first stint at Florida, he's got guys who are better at pure man coverage, like press coverage, and he plays them off. And that's something that's the type of corner he likes. And it's just weird to me because you got guys that are so talented physically, like CJ Henderson is probably the most physically talented corner we've had since, I don't even know, maybe who was it? Was maybe Vernon Hargreaves wasn't as talented as him, but he was a very solid, technical corner. Maybe Jalen Tabor was the most physically talented guy we've had in a while besides, CJ. But it just doesn't make sense to play them in zone coverage and not put them up on the line of scrimmage and smash those guys before they even get across the line. You have because they have the speed and the skill set to do so. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like if Ron English is replaced, I think we're going to still get someone to help out in the secondary because Torian is really good at getting guys ready. And he's very good, solid technical coach. I'm just disappointed with the way they've been playing in terms of the skill set that they have. It doesn't fit a zone scheme, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the LSU game was the one that gave it away too, because we hadn't played a team that could pass like that before, anything close to that. And honestly, I had us pegged as being matched up well against them because I thought we had, in my opinion, the top cornerback tandem in the entire country at just playing physical, playing man coverage with Marco and CJ. I thought we'd be able to handle it. We didn't play the style that I expected us or wanted us to play, and that was a huge disappointment because LSU threw all over us, as everybody saw. So yeah, I do agree with all of that. I'm hoping that that swapping out English, which please do that, and maybe adding some more depth at defensive back helps out with that. Defensive line is going to be its own issue. We're going to be adding talent, but we don't have the depth. So next year could be kind of a mixed year too, but hopefully it starts to come together at some point. So that is the final question. Hammer, I had one more question that I was going to ask you, and I'm wondering maybe we should save this one for next time. I don't know how much time do you have left? Are we probably wrapping this up soon, or do you want to keep going for a while?
Yeah, I can answer one more question. Depends on how long would need to be.
Well,
taken
I had a whole segment just on 2020 and 2021 recruiting, just in general, but I think we might need to save that. So so we'll be coming back soon. We have a lot more discussion with 2020 and 2021 players. We'll go over some of our predictions and expectations from this past National Signing Day, what we wanted to see from this class, and whether or not we're hitting that. And we will do that during this lovely bye week where our players are healing up. And then after that, we will have a big, fat episode dedicated exclusively to hating on that ugly ass inbred bulldog that is Uga.
A thick, juicy, meaty episode.
The only type of episode that I ever want to record. And that's what we're here to do, is drop the meat bombs.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
On that note.
All right. So,
Well, that's it.
Subscribe, record, like, leave a comment, and do it all.
like our friend from Baton Rouge says, review
it. Love it.
That's awesome.
All right, this is good. Yeah, we'll plan something. All right, for the next time.
All right, peace out.
Go Gators.
Let's do it. Go Gators.
Cease from quarreling and fighting, evil speaking and backbiting. All these things take no delight in when we're met together. Let a union be in all our hearts. Let all our hearts be joined as one. We'll end the day as we've begun. We'll end it all in pleasure. Whack for all of our to
Bob Barker reminding you, help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Good night, everybody.